then I followed also the local implementation of the different partners that were involved. So my methodology for this case study is based on an ethnographic study. So I undertook interviews with all involved partners, external observers. I had access to the internal email archives for coordination. I did document analysis of organizing and policy papers. I did participant observation in different organizational and preparatory meetings in the process. So, and I started now to, I started to analyze my empirical data. It's still preliminary, but I work with concepts that are taken from organizational and technology studies, where concepts that are used to study implementation of technologies or also public policy instruments in my case. And one concept I work with is alignment. And alignment in this context means I'm interested in how roles and relationships are shaped during the implementation process. And and there we have the structure of actors who define the overall global design. And there is, on the one hand, involved the Danish Board of Technology itself. There was an advisory board. There's a steering group where also the United Nations Administration for Biodiversity is involved. And then we had local partners, which had to translate and also to implement the design on the local level. And there was, for more or less 1 year, a coordination process, which started with that countries applied for participation and the Danish Board of Technology decided if they were allowed to participate or not. Then there was an introductory training seminar where the Danish Board of Technology trained the partners how they should implement this overall design, which is also interesting in terms of framing. There were a lot of partners involved who actually are experts in this field of public participation themselves, but it was the Danish Board of Technology that somehow assumed for themselves they have the knowledge and they have to teach the other partners how to do that. There were some support for financial strategies. The financial structure was organized in that way that all partners had to contribute with local budgets, but there were the Danish Ministry of Environment and also some international foundations that supported this process. Then there was a longer period of reporting and controlling mechanisms between the DBT and the local partners and a final evaluation process. What becomes very easily obvious is that it is a top-down coordination process, and the roles for the different actors are the coordinating organizations. They are the ones who define the design, they are the experts, they are the coordinators and the controllers, and then there are local partners who are maybe just the receiver of instructions and somehow have, of course, local freedom to interpret the design, but in the overall defining process for the design, they don't play any greater role. So this was one element that I studied in this case, and another one is I used the concept of appropriation, also taken from implementation studies of technology and public policy. And there you look at how actually an overall design is implemented locally and how compliance or non-compliance take place. And here I looked at two aspects. One was the citizen recruitment strategies. As I mentioned earlier, there were defined certain selection criteria for random selection of citizens, and different categories were defined by the Danish Board of Technology. And the local reaction to these criteria that were defined were that, of course, they somehow made also sense in local context, but there were a range of opinions that also, on the one hand, would have liked to add other criteria, or certain criteria were not that useful than others. For instance, there was the criteria of rural area and urban area distribution, and in certain countries where you have mainly rural area, of course, this did not make any sense. So there was kind of tensions how standardized designs make sense to local diversity. The other aspect that I studied with this appropriation concept and the focus on how compliance and non-compliance take place was the also, again, standardized way for the procedure of the day itself. There were different issue sessions and certain global dimensions of biodiversity defined to be discussed. But there were also local reactions, again, that this very abstract theme of biodiversity can be only in very difficult ways be interpreted on local levels, because of course for citizens who don't bring expertise on this issue, it is very difficult to understand what biodiversity can mean on global level. So some of the organizers on local level decided to add additional sessions where they, for instance, really decided to discuss local issues of biodiversity, to make it concrete in their country. Is it about deserts? Is it about certain fishing and water or ocean-related topics? So